What if Ben and Gwen weren't related? Episode 5. This episode begins with Ben wandering a store as his stomach growls. He grabs a box of cookies, making the whole pile accidentally fall on Gwen. To which she, annoyed, says, "Smooth move, Tennyson," before they go on outside where Max is cleaning the rust bucket before something blasts an armored car that was on the street beside them. The people that shot at the car see Max, Ben, and Gwen, and so shoot at them as Max shoves the kids aside and drops to the ground, avoiding being shot himself, thankfully, though Ben looks mad seeing his grandfather hurt. He then says that no one messes with my family, looking a bit angry. Ben does go for Diamond Head, remembering how he could reflect lasers from back when he first got the watch, but sadly messes up when he hits the watch, changing into forearms instead. "Good enough," he spoke, cracking his knuckles and glares at the bad guys, and slams his fists down onto the ground, making a shockwave that knocks the gang off balance and onto the ground. Telling Grandpa, Max, and Gwen to get clear, they do so as he gets blasted in the chest, sending him into the pole by the fuel pumps of the gas station they were at before the gang then blasted the fuel pump, making it explode, though forearms was thankfully okay. He then struck the ground, sending the gang flying backwards, grabbing two of the gang members and shoving them against the armored car from earlier. He removes their helmets. He is shocked to see they were all women, but unlike in the actual show, Ben does not hesitate simply because they were all girls, though the one that was behind him did blast him in the back, causing Ben to let go of the two he'd grabbed. It's then that we see two disc-like robots flying around and firing lasers at the ground, making Ben and the gang of bikers move out of the way. The gang leader gets mad and tries to blast Ben as the other two run off. Max then throws a spare tire at her, making the gang leader angry as she turns the blaster onto Max, shooting the top of the fuel lines and making the roof area drop onto him. Forearms gets mad and grabs the disc robots, slamming them together and then throwing them at the biker gang leader, actually causing real damage as he was angry and so didn't know his own strength, as the metal cut into her body and we hear cracking sounds when she coughed up blood before fainting. Gwen tries to call for an ambulance, but Forearms grabs her and Max and begins to make his way to the hospital since it was faster than waiting for an ambulance. However, the disc robots begin to melt down and attach themselves to the gang leader, changing the color of her skin and repairing the damage to her body at the same time, making her more cybernetic in the process. And when the cops tried to arrest her, she blasts them with the lasers on her shoulders, making her smirk, stating that a girl could get used to this. We then cut to Ben and Gwen talking to a doctor that said there would be a specialist coming in for Ben's grandfather. When Ben asks why, the doctor tells him that he can't be for certain, but it appears that Max would be making a recovery with or without them. It's then that someone calls out for Ben and says that they need to speak with him and Gwen inside Max's hospital room. The man had gray hair and was in a black suit, however there was a distinctive white badge with a red spear embedded into it. It was sort of like that old trinket Max had in the rust bucket. Once inside the room, they introduced themselves as Wes Green and asked Ben what happened. Ben begins to say something, but Gwen elbows him and says that Max was hit by a bumper by accident, though the man then questioned what really happened, and Ben explained that some jerk with a laser shot at the roof above his grandfather's head, making it fall down onto him. Wes then smirks and says that after all these years, Max still can't stay out of trouble. Before seeing Ben's worried face, he says he's got a granddaughter about their age. She'd be worried over him too, then reassured him that Max would be okay. As Ben is in the hallway with Gwen, the two talk about being worried for Max, and Ben thinking that maybe it'd be better if he went on by himself. But that conversation is cut short by the gang leader from earlier attacking in her mutated form. She demands the watch, but Ben refuses, telling her to come get it before running off with Gwen following him as the villain begins shooting lasers at them. As they are running, Gwen mentions that looked like the woman from the robbery, except merged somehow with those robots, and Ben says that they need to lead her away from the hospital so no one got hurt. Gwen then says that's surprisingly level-headed thinking. I'd be impressed if we weren't running for our lives, as they make it outside and hid behind some ambulances. While going for forearms, Ben instead changes into Accelerate and begins to fight with the cyborg, with Gwen holding onto him on his back as she tries to blast him. Getting an idea, he then tells her to try to catch him and begins speeding around through the city, with her following. They'd gotten to a rundown part of the city where Ben then told Gwen to hide once they got into an alleyway and told her that he didn't want her in danger. Gwen tells Ben that there's no way she's leaving him as he times out, and the cyborg biker then tries to attack them, making them run off and hide as she flew past. Ben then tries to tell Gwen that she's in danger around him and it was his fight and his weird watch, but Gwen then responds, maybe so, but you're my weird doofus, before hearing the cyborg start firing lasers again. Telling Ben to follow her, they ran inside of an old building that turned out to be an abandoned gym. Once hidden safely inside, Ben mentions nothing is working. It's Gwen that suggests trying to take her down from the inside instead of Grandpa Max, since they never got the call from him in this version. Ben then hugs Gwen, calling her a genius, to which she does blush a bit before pushing him away, calling him a weirdo. Activating the watch, Ben starts to dial in a transformation before hitting the watch and changing into Upgrade before saying that this would be perfect. Then the cyborg attacked him again, but he was able to attach himself to her, though she was fighting it. It was then that we get our first glimpse of the mastermind. Floating around in some strange space, the squid-faced alien says to listen closely, because no matter where you go, no matter what you do, I will find you and will destroy you and claim the Omnitrix, for I am Bilgax the Conqueror, before Upgrade is then thrown off by the cyborg. The cyborg begins to shoot at Upgrade again, though he avoids it and states, nice light show, mind if I try? Before firing a laser of his own, blowing one of the shoulder blasters off of her, causing the cyborg to scream in pain as Upgrade then attaches himself to her again while she was distracted, and electricity then begins to spark all over them. When Upgrade detaches, the gang leader was, well, just a normal woman again, though she did try to pick up her blaster. That didn't end well for her as Upgrade blasted it before she could reach it. Then Gwen hits her in the back of the head with an old pipe, knocking her out. The episode ends with Max leaving the hospital with Ben and Gwen glad to be recovered, and Ben mentions that whatever that West guy did, it's a miracle. A shame he had to leave before you woke up. Still, I'd like to know just who that squid-faced Bilgax guy was, making Max look uneasy.